Joseph Wilson stood in the corner of Elite Fitness, observing the scene unfolding near the squat racks. A young trainer was berating an elderly man, his voice carrying over the pulsing music. "This isn't a retirement home. Try Planet Fitness instead." At 68, Joseph's weathered face told stories his quiet demeanor concealed. His salt and pepper hair was cut short, practical rather than stylish. Unlike the gym's regulars in their branded activewear, he wore a faded gray Marines t-shirt and simple black sweatpants, both well-worn but meticulously clean. Though age had narrowed his frame, his posture remained military straight. His movements were deliberate, economical, the habits of a man who'd learned that unnecessary motion could cost lives. His dark eyes constantly scanned the room, a vigilance most mistook for confusion of an old man out of place. Joseph had joined Elite Fitness 3 weeks ago after his doctor suggested more structured exercise. The staff had raised eyebrows at his membership application, but his credit card worked, so they reluctantly gave him a tour and left him to struggle, or so they assumed. Nobody knew he'd spent 30 years as a Navy SEAL. Mike Reynolds was Elite Fitness's star trainer. At 32, his sculpted physique and charismatic confidence had earned him 200,000 Instagram followers and a waiting list of clients willing to pay premium rates. His sleeveless compression shirt displayed tribal tattoos and bulging muscles. He wore wireless earbuds even during sessions, occasionally pausing to take selfies between sets. Mike built his brand on modern fitness science and openly mocked outdated approaches. His training philosophy was simple. It wasn't trending on social media. It wasn't worth doing. His clients were primarily young professionals seeking aesthetic results rather than functional fitness. The gym's owner gave Mike special privileges because he attracted wealthy clients. This authority had gone to his head, and he'd appointed himself the unofficial enforcer of gym culture, determining who belonged and who didn't. And in Mike's world, senior citizens definitely didn't belong at Elite Fitness. Joseph approached the elderly man who'd been dismissed by Mike. "Your form was actually good," he said quietly. "Just keep your knees from going too far forward." The man smiled gratefully, but Mike returned, expression darkening. "Excuse me, are you giving training advice?" he asked Joseph, voice dripping with condescension. "Just a suggestion," Joseph replied calmly. Mike looked Joseph up and down, taking in his aged appearance and simple clothes. "No offense, but advice from someone your age is probably outdated. Training has evolved since, well, a long time ago." Several nearby gym-goers snickered. "Things change," Joseph acknowledged with a slight nod. "But proper form prevents injury at any age." Mike crossed his arms. "Look, we appreciate our senior citizens, but unless you're certified, you shouldn't be advising anyone. It's a liability issue." "I understand," Joseph said, stepping back. "Maybe try the seated machines instead of free weights," Mike added loudly. "Much safer for your demographic." Joseph simply nodded and walked away, his expression unchanged despite the public humiliation. He settled into a corner and began a series of unfamiliar movements. Precise, controlled exercises unlike the standard gym routines. Mike was demonstrating bicep curls for a group of admirers when he noticed Joseph performing strange movements in the corner, fluid transitions between odd stances, controlled breathing patterns, and precise hand positions that resembled martial arts more than conventional fitness. "Check this out," Mike called his followers, pointing at Joseph. "This is what happens when you don't update your fitness knowledge since the Vietnam era." His audience laughed as Mike sauntered over, phone ready to record for his Instagram stories. "Interesting routine, sir. Mind sharing what exactly this workout is targeting?" His tone made clear he was mocking, not inquiring. Joseph paused, meeting Mike's gaze. Kinesthetic awareness and proprioception. "Proprioception what?" Mike emphasized each syllable, looking back at his audience with an exaggerated expression. "I think what you're looking for is called chair yoga at the senior center down the street." A woman in the group spoke up. "Actually, proprioception is spatial awareness. It's important for her." "I know what it is," Mike interrupted. "But these movements won't build any real strength or definition. That's what people come to gyms for." He turned back to Joseph. "No offense, But this looks like something from a kung fu movie, not effective modern training. Joseph resumed his exercises without response. How about showing us something that actually works? Mike challenged. Unless these secret moves are too special to share with certified professionals. Joseph stopped, his expression still calm. Everyone has their own training goals. By now, a small crowd had gathered, drawn by Mike's loud mockery. Joseph continued his routine, seemingly oblivious to the attention, while Mike narrated to his audience. See, this is the problem with outdated training methods. Mike announced, they focus on all this mind-body connection nonsense instead of measurable results. That's why this gentleman, respectfully, doesn't look like someone who works out. Joseph completed his sequence and reached for his water bottle. I have an idea, Mike said suddenly. Since you're so confident in your methods, why not put them to the test? A friendly competition, your old-school techniques against modern training. Several gym members murmured with interest. Joseph looked around at the expectant faces. I'm not here to compete, he said quietly. Just a few simple challenges, Mike insisted. Nothing too strenuous for your age, unless you're not confident in those special moves of yours. Joseph considered for a moment. What did you have in mind? Mike's smile widened. Simple fitness basics. Balance, coordination, strength, endurance. I'll even handicap myself to make it fair. He quickly arranged 3 stations. A Bosa ball for balance, a reaction test with tennis balls, and a plank hold position. Ladies first, Mike smirked, gesturing to Joseph. The crowd laughed as Joseph stepped forward, his aged appearance making the challenge seem absurd. On the Bosa ball, Mike expected Joseph to struggle maintaining balance on the unstable surface. Instead, Joseph stepped onto it and stood motionless, one foot raised slightly, body perfectly still despite the wobbling platform. 10 seconds passed. Then 30. After a full minute, Mike cleared his throat uncomfortably. Lucky stance. Let's try reaction testing. He threw a tennis ball suddenly at Joseph's head. Joseph's hand snapped up and caught it inches from his face. The crowd's laughter died. Mike's expression hardened. Beginner's luck. Let's see some real fitness. He dropped into a perfect plank position, core tight, form textbook perfect. Standard endurance test. Let's see who breaks form first. Joseph lowered himself into a plank beside Mike. As seconds turned to minutes, Mike began trembling while Joseph remained steady, breathing controlled. After 3 minutes, Mike collapsed while Joseph held position. That's enough, Mike snapped, standing up and brushing himself off. These party tricks don't prove anything about real-world fitness. A woman's voice cut through the tension. Excuse me, but aren't you Joseph Wilson? A slim woman in her 30s stepped forward from the crowd. I'm Sarah Chun, military correspondent for the Tribune. I interviewed your team after the hostage rescue in Lebanon. Mike scoffed. What hostage rescue? Sarah stared at him incredulously. The 1988 operation that saved 14 American diplomats? It was classified for decades. She turned to Joseph. You're looking at a former Navy SEAL team commander. The gym fell silent. Joseph straightened, his humble demeanor unchanged. SEAL team. Mike laughed nervously. No offense, but you're a bit old for that story to check out. I'm 68, Joseph said simply. I served for 30 years. Prove it, Mike challenged, regaining some confidence. Anyone can claim military service. Joseph sighed. I don't carry my service record to the gym. Sarah interrupted. Commander Wilson received the Navy Cross. His last position was training new SEAL recruits in advanced close-quarters combat. Mike snorted. Close-quarters combat? At his age. Perhaps a demonstration would be more convincing than credentials. Joseph suggested mildly. He turned to Mike. The exercises you saw me performing are part of the SEAL Combat Readiness Program I helped develop. They emphasize neurological training rather than simple strength building. Show us, someone called from the crowd. Joseph nodded and moved to an open space. I'll need a volunteer. Mike stepped forward, confidence returning. Happy to help debunk this. Attack me, Joseph instructed. Mike looked uncertain. I'm not going to attack a senior citizen. Just try to restrain me, Joseph clarified. Use any technique you know. Mike shrugged and lunged forward, attempting to grapple Joseph in a bear hug. What happened next was so fast many observers missed it. Joseph's stance shifted slightly. His hands made minimal contact with Mike's arms, and suddenly Mike was face down on the mat, arms secure behind him. Joseph helped him up immediately. Again, if you'd like. Red-faced, Mike attacked more aggressively. The result was the same, but with Mike pinned in a different position. After the third demonstration, Joseph began explaining the principles behind the techniques. He showed how minimal force could redirect an opponent's energy, demonstrating on several willing volunteers of different sizes. His movements, though performed at teaching speed, showed remarkable precision and control. These techniques kept me alive in situations where strength alone would have failed, Joseph explained. They're designed to be effective regardless of age or size. The atmosphere in the gym had transformed completely. Members gathered around Joseph, asking questions about his service and training methods. Mike stood off to the side, his earlier bravado deflated. The exercises you saw me doing developed the neural pathways these techniques require. Joseph explained to the group, modern fitness is excellent for building aesthetic physiques and general strength, but specialized training serves different purposes. Sarah added context about Joseph's decorated career. Missions in Panama, Somalia, Iraq, and Afghanistan, plus years developing training protocols for special forces. Eventually, Mike approached, extending his hand. I owe you an apology, sir. I was completely out of line. Joseph shook it firmly. No apology needed. Appearances can be deceiving. I've never seen techniques like that, Mike admitted. They're incredibly effective. Different tools for different purposes. Joseph replied, your methods build impressive physiques. Mine were designed for survival. The gym owner, who had witnessed the later demonstrations, approached Joseph. Would you consider teaching a specialized class here? Many of our members, including veterans, might benefit from your expertise. Joseph looked thoughtful. I might be persuaded, but I'd need complete creative control over the curriculum. 3 months later, Elite Fitness had undergone a transformation. Joseph's functional combat fitness classes ran 5 times weekly, consistently at full capacity. The clientele had diversified, now including veterans, law enforcement professionals, and everyday people interested in practical fitness beyond aesthetics. Mike had become one of Joseph's most dedicated students, incorporating functional movements into his own training regimens. His social media now featured collaboration videos with Coach Wilson, where they demonstrated complementary approaches to fitness goals. What I've learned from Commander Wilson, Mike told his followers, is that true fitness transcends appearance. It's about capability, longevity, and function, not just looking good for photos. Joseph maintained his humble demeanor, still wearing his old Marines t-shirts despite offers of sponsored gear. He'd expanded his program to include special sessions for disabled veterans and first responders. One evening after class, a young trainer asked Joseph why he hadn't corrected Mike more forcefully during their first encounters. Joseph smiled slightly. In SEAL training, we learned that the loudest person in the room is rarely the most knowledgeable. True confidence doesn't require validation from others. He watched members of all ages practicing his techniques across the gym floor. The most important battle is against your own assumptions. I didn't need to prove Mike wrong. I just needed to show him a different perspective. Mike, overhearing, nodded in agreement. Best lesson I've ever learned, he said. Never judge someone's capabilities by their appearance, especially not a quiet old man in a faded t-shirt. Have you ever misjudged someone based on their appearance? Or been underestimated yourself? Share your story in the comments. If this video taught you something valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories about respect, dignity, and breaking stereotypes.